Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jenny will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, Jenny Bellinger, your direct sales dom, helping you whip your business into shape. Today, I have with me Noah St. John. Now, if you have participated in my virtual summits in any time between 2020 and 2023, you've heard one of my big speakers, Candice Rodarte, talk about Noah St. John's book, Affirmations, and what a change it made in her life. And maybe you've never heard of this before, but I wanted to have him on the show because of this. So let me tell you a little bit about Noah St. John. He is recognized as the father of Affirmations and the mental health coach to the stars. Working with Hollywood celebrities, 7- and 8-figure company CEOs, professional athletes, top executives, and elite entrepreneurs, Noah is famous for helping his coaching clients make more in 12 weeks than they did in the previous 12 months, while winning back 1 to 3 hours per day and 4 to 8 weeks a year. Noah's clients are the top 0.1% rock stars who love to take action and get amazing results. Welcome to the show, Noah.
Great to be here, Jenny.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to have you here because I'm not kidding when I've said, you know, Candice Rodarte has talked so much about your book, Affirmations, and what that's done for her life. So I wanted to have a conversation with you, and I've got the book sitting in my stack here ready to read. How did you get into coaching and writing, especially this particular book?
Well, I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood, and I know that's a total cliche, but it's totally true. I grew up in this little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England, but my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. Wow. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family. Now, a lot of times you'll hear speakers get on stage, you know, at seminars and things like that, and they'll say, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, in my family, we freaking knew we were poor because because my mother, bless her heart, reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So no one wasn't happy. It sucked. And so from a very young age, I hated that being poor. I hated that life of poverty, fear, lack, not enoughness. That's what I grew up with. Because I saw that right down the street, there's great wealth and abundance. So I said, how the heck do I get from here to there? And so, of course, there was no one to help me. There was no internet back then, you know. So I did the only thing that I could think of to do, which is I went to the library and I read every book in the self-help section. I just immersed myself in the self-help, you know, books, right? The classics, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey. And I read every book that I could. And they all said the same thing, you know, use affirmations and positive statements and and say, you know, they'll say the same thing. And so I was like, okay, so I really tried. I worked really hard, but I could never seem to get them to work. So at the age of 25, I'd been working really hard for a long time, had nothing to show for it. So I, at the age of 25, decided to commit suicide. I decided to take my own life. Now, at the very last moment, my life was spared, but I didn't know why at the time. And so I said, I have got to figure out, what am I doing on this planet? What is my purpose? Why am I here? And so I went back to the library, and this time I went to the spiritual section, and I read every book in the spiritual section, all the, you know, spiritual thinkers of our time, Ernest Holmes, Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, and people like that, right? And I read all those books. And so then fast forward to 1997, and I had been reading all of these books for so many years, hundreds and hundreds of books. They all said the same thing. And so I had one of the things that every book says, right? We've all heard this a million times, is you say these affirmations, right? You write these positive statements. I'm happy, I'm rich, I'm successful. And the reality was, no, I'm not. I'm broke, unhappy, and miserable, right? So I was like, what the heck is missing here, right? And what aren't they telling us? So it was one day, it was April 1997, and I was in the shower thinking about this very point, this thing that I've been thinking about for years and years and years by that time. And, in fact, in my books and my coaching programs, I call it the shower that changed everything, right? Because so many of us have those aha moments in the shower, right? Well, this was the one that changed my life, and that's now changed millions of lives all around the world as a result. So I was thinking about this. I said, they say, every book says the same thing, and say a statement, and I'm happy, I'm rich, I'm successful, right? And it just doesn't work. And I said, well, what are we talking about? We're talking about beliefs, but what is a belief? A belief is just a thought. So I said, what is thought? And the more that I thought about that question, what is human thought? I realized that human thought is the process of asking and searching for answers to questions, not statements, but questions. For example, if I ask you, why is the sky blue? Why is the sky blue? Do you know what just happened in your brain?
I tried to go to the scientific explanation.
Exactly. You started to search for the answer. In fact, you couldn't not do it. You couldn't help it. And it's actually called the embedded presupposition factor of the brain. It simply means when you ask a question, your brain automatically searches for the answer. So I said, wait a second. If the human brain is automatically searching for answers to questions, why are we going around making statements we don't believe? Why don't we just cut out the middleman? And I said, well, what would that look like? And then I said, well, let's see. You got this statement. I am. In fact, I love to do this, right? Because, you mentioned, I'm a coach and an author. I'm also a keynote speaker. So I get to speak to network marketing and direct sales companies all around the country and around the world, right? So in my keynote presentations, one of the things I like to do is have fun with my audience members. And so I'll say, all right, now everybody, we're going to stand up and everybody say a classic affirmation that you probably said a million times. Everybody say, I am rich, right? And everybody goes, I am rich, right? You know what happens next? Everyone starts laughing. And I go, what are you laughing at? And they go, well, I'm not rich. And I say, but you just said you were. And they go, yeah, but I don't believe it. See, isn't that the truth, right? Isn't it actually true that we say these positive statements? We want to believe them, but 75% of the time, 90% of the time, we just don't believe it. Right. In fact, a scientific study was done on this very topic and actually showed that 75%, get this, 3 out of 4 people who use the old affirmations method actually end up more frustrated than before. So imagine if you had a smartphone that didn't work 3 out of the 4 times you went to use it. You'd probably get a new phone, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I invented. I invented a better phone 26 years ago, right? A better phone for the human mind. And so what I realized is that rather than a statement that we don't believe, I am rich. And the brain says, yeah, right. I said, if that's the statement, then what would the question be? And then I said, why am I so rich? Why am I so rich? Now, when you ask that question, what immediately happens in your brain?
You start looking for the answers.
Right. You immediately start searching for the answer. So what I'm teaching in my books and in my coaching and in my courses is the law of sowing and reaping. As you sow, so shall you reap. Now, of course, this is an ancient law. It's been taught for centuries. And yet, what are we sowing? We're sowing seeds of thought. But do you know what most people are doing? Sowing lousy thought seeds.
Right.
Why am I so stupid? Why am I so fat? Why can't I lose weight? Why isn't my business growing? Why can't I get more customers or recruits? Why is there more month left at the end of the money? And when you ask lousy questions, what do you get?
Lousy answers.
Right. And that creates a lousy life. So I said, wait a second. What if instead of asking lousy questions that lead to lousy answers, create a lousy life? What if we just flip the whole thing on its head, start asking empowering questions that lead to phenomenal answers and create a wonderful life? And as I was standing there in the shower, April 1997, I said, holy cow, I think I just invented something. And so I had to give it a name, and the name that I gave it was Affirmations. And everybody listening to this program can go to affirmations.com. That's spelled AFFORMATIONS, Affirmations, and learn more about my now legendary Affirmations method. And so just to finish the story, I said, holy cow, this could really change a lot of people's lives. And so I ended up writing my first book about that. My first book was called Permission to Succeed, which was published in 1999 by the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. And now I've published 24 books, and I'm the only author in history that's had works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Mind Valley, Nightingale Conant, and the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. No one else in history has ever done that. No author in history except me. I happen to be the only person that's ever done that. And so we've also helped millions and millions of people all around the world through my Affirmations method. And of course, in the direct sales industry in particular, I've helped people add 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, and even 7 and 8 figures in record time, literally just by changing their subconscious thought patterns, changing their habits, changing the results, and thereby changing their lives.
Ah, that is incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to let the audience know, because my badass crew already knows this, but just in case this is somebody's first time ever listening, you can find the link that Noah just gave in the show notes. So make sure you go check the show notes. We'll have affirmations.com, so that way you can do it without even having to spell it. Just click the link, easy peasy, it'll go right there. So with all of this work, what were you doing? You said you were working so hard until you were 25. What
Mm-hmm.
type of work were you doing then? And what shifted you then into the authorship and coaching?
Well, before I got into this work, I was actually a professional ballet dancer. And so I am the only person in the business and personal growth industry who made a living lifting ballerinas.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, and the reason I got into ballet was because when I was very little, I couldn't walk very well. In fact, I had braces on my legs like Forrest Gump, if you remember that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And so I couldn't walk. And so my pediatrician said to my parents that I should take dance lessons to strengthen my legs. And so I did that. And then at the age of 15, I started taking ballet lessons. And then at age 18, I became a professional ballet dancer. I danced with several troupes along the East Coast. Then at the age of 22, I had a career-ending injury because my body was not built for ballet, and most human bodies are not. So
Right.
I was literally out on the street with no money, no skills, no education. And, I was like, no contacts and really nowhere to go. And so I ended up just doing a bunch of survival jobs, and that's what they were. I was just surviving.
Right.
And, that's one of the reasons at age 25, I said, you know what? I looked at the next 40 years of my life and I said, I don't want to be here. And so, at the last moment, my life was spared. So that's when I realized I've got to figure out what I'm doing here on this planet. And so then I actually went back to college at age 28. I was a religious studies major. And that's what I was doing, studying religious studies, when I discovered Affirmations and had, that epiphany that changed my life and millions of lives as a result. And so, now I've been coaching people for the last 26 years. Very few people in this industry have been doing this for as long as I have. And no one has the track record that I do of helping people, just regular, everyday people to add six figures, multiple 6, 7, and 8 figures, over $3 billion collectively. And literally in the direct selling network marketing industry in particular, I've helped my clients make, hundreds of millions of dollars, which is all documented. And you can see that on our website as well.
That is fantastic. I love that. And so how did you end up getting into working with people in direct sales, network marketing? What drove you in that direction?
Well, actually, it found me. And so many, many years ago, back in the 90s, like I said, I've been online since the 90s. And I still have people on my list who have been on my list since the 90s, which is incredible. Well over 20 years, which is amazing. That shows the value, that we provide.
Yeah.
But actually, it was a national sales director from Mary Kay who found me. She found me. And back then, when you typed in fear of success on Google, I came up number one. And she realized that she was holding herself back. And so I coached her. She was one of my first coaching clients. And I just got her incredible results. She went on to have her best years ever as a result of my coaching. And then she just started telling everybody, and then their friends told their friends, and on and on and on like that. And, like I said, when you go to my website, you'll just see tons of network marketing success stories. Many other industries as well. But I'll just give you one quick example. I was working with one woman named Sheila in direct sales, and she heard me speak at one of their national sales conventions. And she came up to me afterwards and said, Noah, I've spent all this money, all this time, gone to all these gurus, I've tried all this training. And, she was doing well. She was making about $5,000 a month in her business, which is good, right? Not bad. But
Right.
She said, I know I can do a lot more. And I've tried everything. And your approach sounds really different. And so she decided to hire me as her coach. And we have a program called the 12-Week Breakthrough, which is where as you mentioned earlier, I help people make more in just 12 weeks than in the previous 12 months while winning their lives back. So I coached her through my process, and she went in less than 6 months from where she was making $5,000 a month that she'd been stuck at for quite a while to making $75,000 a month. That's
Wow.
a 1,500% increase in less than 6 months. And what's even better about that, of course, the money is great, right? And she won all these trips and awards and everything like that. But what's even better, she said, is, Noah, I'm working less to make $75,000 a month than I was when I was making $5,000 a month. So not only is she making a lot more money, she's got more time, to be with her family and do the things that she really wants to do. So that's, of course, why people get into direct selling, right? Is to have the money freedom and the time freedom. But the problem is that most people don't really have that. And that is one of the reasons that, we've seen just incredible results like that in direct sales.
Yeah. And so as you're working with these types of clients, what is the most common thing that you see holding them back? And, it's
that
actually
they
aren't seeing. What's their blind spot?
Yeah. I've written 24 books about this very subject, and it's what I call your head trash. And so, your head trash, as I've been teaching for over 20 years now, your head trash is that voice in your head that says, I can't do it because. So for everyone listening to the program, I want you to think about your goals, right? What are your goals? What is it you want to accomplish in the next 12 months, right? And everybody says, well, no, I want to make more money. I want to have more time. I want to be able to have that time freedom, that financial freedom, spend more time with my family, go on vacations, win the trips, win the awards, be on stage and all those things. It's like, that's great. Okay. So why don't you have it yet? And so this is what I asked them. And then they say, well, I can't do it because ... right? And see, whatever happens after the word because is what you believe, and ironically, what you will defend to the death. And so people are defending their limitations, not knowing it, not doing this on purpose.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because, as I talked about earlier, the law of sowing and reaping, as you sow, so shall you reap. You're sowing those negative, disempowering thought seeds. And so one of the reasons that my clients get such incredible results is we're able to look at that head trash, which is in the subconscious mind. They don't even know they're doing it. We bring it to the conscious, and then you can make a conscious choice. And one of the reasons this is so powerful is because of the iceberg principle of the human mind. The human mind is just like an iceberg, right? About 5% is above the surface, just like an iceberg, right? It's that conscious mind, and that means you have a choice about your thoughts. But 95% of our thoughts, behaviors, and actions are in the subconscious, right? That means they're below the surface. That means they're hidden. That means you can't see it. And that means you can't make a choice about it. If it's something you can't see and you don't even know it's there, how can you choose it? You can't. And so as I always tell my clients, it wasn't the part of the iceberg that they could see that sunk the Titanic. It was the part that they couldn't see that sunk the Titanic. And that's what's sinking most people too.
Oh, that's incredibly powerful.
Yes, it is.
Right? I mean, just because I think we all recognize that, well, I would say a majority of people who are in network marketing, once they do enough of the personal development, they do recognize that they are what is holding themselves back. It's not the fact that my spouse doesn't support me in this, or my family isn't supporting me. They won't have a party for me, blah, like all of those statements that people sometimes make at the beginning of their business.
Yep. That's right.
But they go to enough trainings, they start realizing that they're the ones that are holding themselves back. As they're making this shift to get into this subconscious piece to get rid of the head trash, right? Which is the name of one of your books as well.
That's right.
As they're shifting through to do that, how is that working? Because you just said they literally will fight to the death about their limitations.
Well, nobody wants to do that, though. So that's the funny thing. They don't want to do it, and they don't mean to do it. So it's exactly like this. In fact, I'll give you an analogy. One of my very first coaching clients many, many years ago, he said to me, Noah, as we're doing this work together, as you're coaching me and we're doing this, it's like you turned a light on in a room that has been dark my whole life. And I realized that's exactly what it's like. And so let me show you the analogy. So imagine if you're, for everyone listening, imagine if you're, in your home right now, your condo, your home, your office, wherever. And somebody comes in and shuts all the blinds, turns all the lights off, and it's completely dark and you can't see anything. And then they say to you, okay, I want you to rearrange the furniture. And you're like, well, I can't see. And they go, well, come on, get motivated. Come on, set your goals, think positive. Come on, you can do it. You see what they're doing? They're trying to psych you up, pump you up like every other coach does, right? They're doing what everybody does. Come on, think positive. And you're like, all right, I'll try. And you're like, ow, I hit my shin, and I can't say anything, right? And so, you feel totally frustrated because like, oh my gosh, I mean, this should be so easy, but I'm failing. I'm totally failing. So what I do is I come in and I go, click, and I turn the lights on. I'm like, now can you see? And oh, yeah. And I'm like, well, can you rearrange the furniture now if you want to? Well, yeah, of course, because now I can see what I'm doing. See, that's exactly what it's like with the subconscious mind. You can't even see it. And how the heck can you rearrange the furniture in a place that you can't see? So that's what this work is like. In fact, another great story is talking about that book you mentioned, one of my books called Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money, which your listeners can get for free. Actually, we can let them know.
Ooh.
But I was actually speaking at another network marketing conference, and it was actually a mom and her daughter were there. And they bought the book literally right there on the spot. And the mom started reading it like literally right there. She came to me about 15 minutes later, just literally at the seminar, and she was in tears. And she said, Noah, you just explained my whole life in 72 pages. I was like,
wow.
And then later on, I actually heard from the daughter only like, a month or two later. And she wrote me an email and she said, Noah, thank you for giving me my mom back.
Oh,
isn't that beautiful?
I just got like literally head to toe tingles.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Oh my gosh.
It was wonderful.
Because that's why I do what I do. Is, when people ask me why I chose to coach in this industry, because my certification is as a professional coach, a whole person coach. So I literally, in air quotes, can coach anyone, right? But my preference is in this industry because I had time in the industry myself. I found success in the industry myself. And I had a lot of people asking me how I did it. And so I started working with them. But the reason that I choose to continue to work with people, especially women, is because the ripple effect of working with a mom, you then are affecting everyone in her life. Now, this is true even if you're working with a dad. But there's just so many more moms to talk to in direct sales, right?
Yes.
But it's that, for me, what gets me out of bed when I'm having a day where I'm like, oh my God, it'd be so nice to just stay cuddled up in bed, is I literally imagine the kids of the clients that I haven't met yet and how their lives won't be impacted. And I'm like, all right, nope, get my butt out of bed. Let's go.
Love it.
Right?
That's beautiful.
It's that exact thing. And so I love that book was able to make such an impact on that mother, that daughter, and fingers crossed that becomes like a family money Bible for them,
Yes,
because then they can make sure that cycle gets broken.
Right.
So let's talk more about that book then, the Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money. Because one thing I know, I mean, I've been coaching in the industry since 2011. For the past 3 years, I've been doing deeper than disc assessments where we look at the subconscious values. And one thing that I've been tracking on everyone who's taken this assessment in the industry is 87% of people in network marketing and direct sales are not motivated. They don't value money. It is usually their lowest or second lowest subconscious value. So my guess is it's because they have head trash around it. So they're like, well, if money is crap, then I don't value it, right? So let's talk about some of the things that are in the book so that way they go, ooh, I should go get this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and yes, the book, as I mentioned, is free. We just asked folks to cover the shipping. So when you go to the website, the book is free and just cover the shipping. So the book is titled Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money. The subtitle is How to Avoid the 3 Big Money Mistakes Even Smart People Make. And I know everyone listening to this program is very smart, but nevertheless, you might be making one or more of these mistakes anyway, without even realizing it. And so that's what I really talk about. And, one of the big mistakes is not getting rid of your head trash about money, right? And so just as an example, right? A lot of people have heard that, money is the root of all evil, right? Just that quote. And that's just out there in what Jung called the collective unconscious, right? It's just floating out there.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, that's a misquote from the Bible. The Bible did not say that money is the root of all evil. It said love of money is the root of all evil. But even that, it's not meaning that love of money is the root of all evil. And that's what, in that sense, and that quote even has been, taken out of context, in a million different ways. Right. And so many people come to me and they truly believe that if they, are going after money, or even if they have a lot of money, that means they're a bad person. And, so that's one of the things that we have to really uncover and take a look at, in terms of head trash. And by the way, I want people to realize that I came up with that term over 20 years ago, head trash, very specifically, because I want you to think about, I'll give you an example that I also like to give in my keynote presentations when I'm speaking to direct sales companies. And I say, imagine in your home right now, right? And, you're in your home and you're just going about your life and you're like, you know what? I don't feel like taking out the trash this week. I just don't feel like it, so I'll just leave it. And then, a week goes by and I'll take out the trash. And then you say next week goes by and like, I don't feel like taking out this week either. I'll just leave it. And the week goes by, another week, and maybe a month, maybe 2 months, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, maybe a couple of years go by and you don't take out the trash. What does your house look like right now?
It's nothing but trash.
It's pretty bad, right? Have you seen those TV shows like Hoarders on TV?
Yes.
And you're like, oh my dear God. I mean, it's bad. It's really, really bad. And it's unhealthy and it's gross and disgusting and all that stuff, right? Well, if that's your physical home, imagine how much trash you might have in your head that we haven't taken out for 10, 20, 30 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the point. There's a lot of trash in there, and that can really, really hold you back. I'll give you a quick example. Another example from another one of my clients named Tamisa. She's an entrepreneur out in Arizona, and she was a self-described seminar junkie, going to all these seminars, spending all this money. And she was doing well. She was doing 6 figures in her business, so doing well.
Yeah.
But she just couldn't get through that income ceiling. She just couldn't bust through as hard as she was trying and spending all this money and all this time and effort. And so, she joined my 12-week breakthrough program, which is the group coaching that we have. And in the first 2 weeks of getting coaching from me, she tripled her investment in 2 weeks. And we hadn't even gotten to the money part yet. We hadn't even talked about money yet. She tripled in 2 weeks. And I was like, and she just went on to just have the best year of her life. And I mean, the point is, that's how powerful this is when you're holding yourself back without, and of course, nobody means to do this. I want to emphasize that. Nobody's doing this on purpose, but it doesn't matter because of the law of sowing and reaping. If you're sowing those seeds that say, if I make a lot of money, that means I'm a bad person. I don't want to be a bad person, so I know I won't make money. Well, okay. Nobody does that on purpose, but it doesn't matter. So that's one of the things that we have to get rid of when we get rid of your head trash about money.
I love that. All right. So what I'm going to tell the Badass Crew and listeners who haven't yet joined the Badass Crew is go check out sendmeabooknoah.com, because we had already discussed this beforehand. This is where they can get their copy of Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money, where they just pay to get it shipped to themselves. That's amazing. And for me personally, I prefer a physical book when I'm reading a book for learning, because I like to be able to, and all the bibliophiles are absolutely going to hate me when I say this, but I am the person who is highlighting, writing in the margins, like doodling whatever comes to mind, because like I've literally or drawn a picture of someone's like mind blown in certain books, because I'm like, whoa, that was a huge like mind blowing thing for me, right?
That's great.
Because that's how I can find those things again when I go back and review. So I love the fact that this is an actual physical book, not just an ebook, because then it's going to sit there and look at you.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I love it when readers come up to me at seminars and they've got my books and they've written in them and they're highlighted. I'm like, it's a tool that I want you to use to improve your life.
Yes.
So absolutely, I love that.
Fantastic. All right, so we do have the link for sendmeabooknoah.com in the show notes. If you want to just be able to click it and go right there and order your copy right now, highly recommend it. I'm going to go do it myself because as well as I'm doing, hey, I am not opposed to doing better. So
there you go.
I want to make sure I'm not making one of those 3 mistakes. So Noah, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for giving your time to be here on the show today. I really appreciate you.
It's my pleasure.
Oh my gosh. And Badass Crew, you know how this goes. Check the show notes for all of Noah St. John's contact information. We have all of his social media links if you want to start following him while you're waiting for your book to show up in the mail. Go check him out. And Noah, if they want to reach out to you, how would you like them to contact you?
Well, there's 2 ways to do that. The first way is go to booknoah.com. That's if you want me to speak at your event.
Okay.
Go to booknoah.com. Easy to remember. Who should we book? Booknoah.com.
I love it.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
No, thank you. And then if you want to talk to me or one of my breakthrough coaches about having your breakthrough, just go to breakthroughwithnoah.com. Breakthroughwithnoah.com. All this is easy to remember. Easy to remember. Just put Noah in it and it's probably me.
Right, exactly. Well, we'll make sure that we have all of those links in the show notes as well, so people can just go grab those really quickly if they're like, oh yeah, especially because, like I said, you're going to be part of the 6-Figure Success series to help people get to that 6-figure success level. Yes. So I know that they're going to want to possibly book you to come talk to their team or maybe even put you in touch with their company CEO to get you to one of their conventions. So
let's do it.
Absolutely. So this has been fantastic. I loved talking to you, and now I'm going to go read a bunch of your books and then invite you back to talk about more of the books.
Oh, good.
This is fantastic.
Let's do it.
All right. So, Badass Crew, you know how this goes. Stay tuned because there's another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.